Granny and I decided last night, about 9 o'clock, that we want to go on a road trip today. So we got our clothes together, got all chores done for the next 2 days, jumped in the car, and we're headed to the Biltmore so that we can tour the gardens, tour the castle, tour the house. And there's nothing more fun than doing that on a whim, spontaneous. So y'all can go with us. When going on a road trip with Granny, be prepared to stop and pee a lot. Okay, we've just entered the gate and we're driving onto the grounds. I'm pretty pumped. Me too. Pretty excited. Me too. Taking a trail in. It's an 8-minute walk from this parking lot. It's an 8,000 acre estate. I feel like she's gonna make me cover all 8,000 acres of it today. George Vanderbilt was born in 1862 to William and Maria Vanderbilt. George is the mastermind behind the Biltmore Estates. But it's interesting where his family's fortune started from. His ancestors originally arrived in America around 1650. They immigrated from Holland, but they settled on Staten Island in New York. They were prosperous farmers. But in 1810, George's grandfather, Cornelius Vanderbilt, decided to change in the family's vocation. At age 16, Cornelius borrowed $100 from his mother in order to build a ferry service on the New York Bay. This vision of taking the waterways turned into a trade business that consisted of a fleet of more than 100 steamboats making trips to Europe and Central America. It only took him a year or two to turn $100 into $100 million. His son, William Henry, inherited most of his father's fortune. William Henry was George Washington Vanderbilt's father. The Vanderbilts became known for living a life of privilege, wealth, education, travel, and having a taste for the fine arts. William Henry was known as an astute collector. In 1888, George Vanderbilt took a short visit to the Blue Ridge Mountains with his mother, and it immediately sparked Vanderbilt's imagination. He had found the perfect location for his country home in Asheville, North Carolina. In 1889, the construction of the Biltmore House began. Vanderbilt has a 250-room French Renaissance chateau, and it's the largest undertaking in a residential architect. Over a 6-year period, an entire community of craftsmen come together to create the America's premier home and the environmental wonderland that surrounds it. In 1895, on Christmas Eve, the country retreat that George Vanderbilt had spent so long planning is finally finished, and it's open to his friends and family. The finished home contains over 4 acres of floor space, including 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, and 65 fireplaces. A little over 2 years later, George Vanderbilt marries Edith, and then only 2 more years, their very first child, Cornelia, was born in 1900. But in 1914, only 14 years after their only child was born, George Vanderbilt passed away with complications from appendicitis. Edith has to sell approximately 87,000 of the acres of this estate to the United States Forest Service for less than $5 an acre. This was to help her keep from losing the estate. The money that was made was used to fund the daily operations of the Biltmore. Cornelia grows older and marries, and she and her husband move into the Biltmore. But in 1930, they make the decision to open the Biltmore House to the public. In 1960, the 2 sons of Cornelia return to the Biltmore and begin to start a career on managing the estate. They focus on self-sufficiency and preserving the estate's historic splendor. In 71, they plant their first vines and create their first vineyard at the Biltmore. In 83, the Biltmore's Estates Wine Company is established. 2001, the Inn on the Biltmore Estate opens for its first visitor. Then in 2010, Antler Hill Village, which is a village full of shops, lodges, and restaurants, also opened for new opportunities for dining, outdoor activities, and shopping for any visitors that come on the grounds. At the Biltmore House, you'll see displays of vintage clothing, accessories, art, furniture, and more that tell stories and illustrate the lives of the Vanderbilt family, their guests, and their employees. You'll marvel at magnificent 16th century tapestries, a library with 10,000 volumes, a banquet hall with a 70-foot ceiling, 65 fireplaces, and a bowling alley, a heated indoor pool, might I add, when running water and electricity was just an imagination of most people in the same community where the Vanderbilts live. A landscape architect was hired, and there are acres of formal and informal gardens. The Biltmore Estates house the gardens of America's first managed forest. Today, there are experts that continually work to preserve the original vision for the gardens and the grounds, including a rose garden that features more than 250 varieties. The beautiful conservatory was completed in 1895 and highlights a wide variety of exotic plants. Its tall arched windows look out onto the terraced butterfly garden and the walled garden beyond, and the pointed glass of the roof lets in an abundance of natural light. When Vanderbilt made the decision to locate his mountain mansion in Asheville, North Carolina, it led to his purchase of a total of 125,000 acres surrounding the site. Today, the Biltmore Estate encompasses approximately 8,000 acres, and every single one of them are landscaped. The appraised value of the 135,000 square foot Biltmore House is about $37 million, according to the county tax appraisers of 2017. The value of the part of the estate that is open to the public, with 2,194 acres, which includes the house, hotels, restaurants, and other buildings, exceed $300 million. This estate is still family owned. George Vanderbilt's great-grandson, Bill Cecil Jr., is the current CEO of the Biltmore Company. Children under the age of 16 are free from May to September. If it's possible, in your lifetime, everyone needs to visit the largest house in the United States, which is called the Biltmore Estate. Hey guys, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video that you just watched. Listen, what you've stumbled on is our top 100 things to do in a year. So we've made a list of things that we want to do in this next year. So we'll be posting stuff all the time. If you liked it and you don't want to miss anything, make sure you subscribe so that you get the new messages next time we go on our adventure. If there's some ideas that you have, maybe we haven't thought about them, comment below and let us know what it is. We might be able to fit it into our calendar and on our schedule. Like us, invite your friends. We're really having a great time. And what I want to do more than anything is invite you to start your own list. So after you watch ours, make your own list, start your own top 100 things to do. Get outside, have fun with the family.